So in computer science, there's these things called binary trees. I don't remember them too well. I just remember you go down the tree, right? You choose left or right, okay, to organize some data or what have you, okay? You could look at it as like organizing bits of 0, 1 strings. So if you start with 0, 1, and you go, these are all going to start with 0. If you go down the tree on the left, these are all going to start with 1. Whatever, right? It could be anything. Now imagine a search algorithm that was so inefficient that you had to search every single entry of that tree. So let's say you went 0, 1. So to search a number match, let's say 01001. You start at 0 because what I just said, 01001 starts with 0, right? So you go 0 to the left, and that's, because the data was organized in this way, that you have to search the left side of the tree, not the right. Okay? All right. Now that I got, but let's say the algorithm that you have doesn't do that. It searches everything. Meaning it says, oh, we're going to look at 0 for 01001, and we're going to look at the 1 side. Okay? All right. That is modern politics, not just modern politics. That is modern life right now. Okay? Meaning you ask a question, so in logic, rather, you make a statement, or someone makes a statement, says the sky is blue. And you look at, that's 0, that corresponds to 0, and then you say the sky is not blue, that corresponds to 1. And our algorithm to determine when we go on the internet, or rather when we talk to people, okay? Not only is it can bleed into the talk to people, like when we're talking. Not only do we see that some people say the sky is blue, but we also count the people who don't say it's blue, who say it's not blue. Or rather, and then we also count the objective science, which again, science is, you can't objectify. You can live in an illusion of the objective. I did for a long time, that it exists. But at the end of the day, it's subjective. Now I just made a statement about objectivity. Okay, that's another statement, just like the sky is blue, right? So it's 0 or 1, okay? Now, to determine the truth of something, what we try to do is to go down the tree that corresponds to that statement and discover not only the whole, not just the left side of the tree. So the sky is blue is the left side, or whatever. Maybe it's right in this photo or in this image, still, whatever. But we go through the right side too. We say, what's the science on the opposite of the statement? Okay? And we say, these people who say it's not blue have these arguments, have these scientific bases, whatever, right? And so everything every statement, at least as dictated by math, now I'm making a statement about it. I don't know if it's true, but what I'm trying to propose is a way out of this dilemma, back into searching for, and I didn't even talk about what this relates to. I haven't connected it, but I'll just connect it right now. All right. What it relates to is when you're searching for the validity, the truth of a statement. Maybe it could be related to something you're doing, okay? Something you're building, like the truth of the statement that, like, the truths that develop over time as a human. Like, let's say you're building a company, and you're learning what works in that process and what doesn't. Like, what has given you good feedback and what has given you poor feedback. It could be deciding the material for the car's interior that you're manufacturing, right? Like BMWs, they used a material that melted in the Florida sun. It literally melted, the handles melted. That was a poor decision. That gave probably poor feedback from most people. Now, some people will look at that and be like, oh, I like replacing parts. There are people of like that nature. So I'm not going to say objectively it's poor, but rather profitability might be poor. So what I'm trying to get at is when you're building a product, and not only people telling you something's poor, nature will tell you it too. Like, you build a bridge, and you don't attach it to the right bedrock or whatever, the foundations, and that thing collapses, that's not due to people, that's just due to physics. That's nature. When I refer to physics as a part of nature. So your searching algorithm needs to be efficient. You don't want to go through the entirety of this binary thought tree to find the truth of a statement. Just like you're trying to find a number, where that number lives in that tree. It's the same idea. It can be looked at as the same idea. So I've been watching YouTube videos. I've been watching all sorts of videos online, and if I can just collect my thoughts for a moment, I can get to what I'm trying to talk about here. I'm trying to talk about what is true and what is really false. What is the nature of those two? And I'm into Zen Buddhism, okay? And what they try to do, the Zen masters, from what I've gathered, as I can express to you verbally, because I'm going to tell you it's something non-verbal, because words are words lead you can lead you down a place where you're not going to discover the truth, so to speak. Okay, that can happen. When I say the truth, I'm really talking in my case as a truth, because what I'm going to tell you is that while I said one way while I've been speaking in the axiomatic assumptions, like the assumptions behind my speech are taking something to be true. For instance, I may be taking objectivity, like I said, to be an illusion, not a reality. Meaning you cannot just say it exists because you only know it subjectively, is my argument, right? But I could say that, but at the same time, I don't really believe that. I could be swayed, right? Now, some things in life do take these binary tree approaches, meaning they kind of are progressive. Like, some truths are very, this is true, which makes this true, which makes this true, which makes this true. What is that called? I forget, like inferential truth, okay? That process usually, the inferences in our mind usually occur not verbally, but rather logically, as we say. And I'm here to tell you, as a Zen, like in the Zen philosophy, you're not doing anything logically, okay? You think it's logical. You have the belief that you're being supported by the previous statement, and you're linking it, and the link seems so convincing, so in your face, right? But I'll tell you right now that there are holes in your logic. Holes that I can't, it depends on the case. I would be able to tell you what they are if I thought deeply about what you're saying, whatever truths you're making, but there are always going to be holes. It's never going to be unified. same way physics is not unified, right? Like the wave particle issues, the quantum mechanics issues, right? That's the kind of nature of reality, actually. And it's telling us something where we have learned something from it, in terms of our descriptive language as scientists or philosophers or whatever you. And it's that language is amiss. It misses the mark on describing what's actually happening. And so does logic. Now, that's one view. I could say the other way, right? I could say the other way. I could be a scientist and go about it the whole other way, which I'm not going to do here because I'm here to tell you a truth that I think is true. An opinion, right? And the value of the opinion, in my eyes, is greater than the truth itself. So, when someone is speaking online about something and they have experienced the reality in a certain way, I want to give them the utmost praise for having that opinion about that thing. I wish all society to give this one person the utmost praise, the utmost appreciation for his opinion, for his truth, rather. Whatever it may be, as contradicting to your own nature as it may seem, give him that space. That's what I'm proposing here. And I'm proposing this because in my truth, the idea of yin and yang takes precedence, which is if you go so far in the other direction, meaning you crush his soul, you crush his opinions, you crush his ideas, you put a no to it, and you use it and you base it off the premises of science, which is the utmost powerful tool to do this, right? It has its tendrils in logic. Okay? You can do that. You can crush people's souls online. You can teach them. You can change their mind. In a sense, you're brainwashing them, actually. And you can then say, we're the sum of our experiences. So his brainwashing occurred when he was a little kid. Like, we've been all getting screwed from our childhood. Like, we are not unadulterated minds. Our minds are polluted with ideas from everywhere. So we're getting our ideas from this, this polluted area. But I'm not a believer of that. You could, again, that's one way of looking at it. But really, I'm a believer of the opposite, which is a mild believer of the opposite, meaning I'm prone to change. But the believer of the opposite is that actually we create, just like Alan Watts says, we create our reality as we go. We're like a boat. The wake of a boat does not drive the boat. The boat drives the boat, okay? The wake is a result of the present, which is happening now. So it's a time-based description. So it's the same thing. You cannot say we're the sum of our experiences. You could say that could play a role, but again, that's important, actually. That's an important outlook too. It's like the people who can say both A and not A. That's important. But I give importance to the people who just believe just A or just believe not A, not the both, not the contradiction. Because the contradiction will lead you, I think it'll lead you into Zen Buddhism, all right? And you'll become a monk because you just can't handle it. Or you can handle it, whatever way you look at it. The contradiction is what I'm talking about, handling. So in this regard, my approach to all life and all truth, rather, is to be in the most flowing energy. Not what this is. This conversation is extremely, in my view, destructive, actually. But in my view as well, the destruction can propagate construction because of yin and yang. You can destroy an ideal of society or of yourself philosophically, logically, and you'll find that that destruction can lead to more construction, better construction, if you want to comparison, right? I'm not saying this to do anything. I'm just saying it because like Alan Watts says, I dig it. But my whole point in this conversation was to describe that online you'll feel some way, and then you'll see a piece of evidence or something that'll completely change your mind, and you'll be on the opposite end. So we all have become, I think, in our society, as far as I can observe, diddler-daddlers. Diddly-daddling. Meaning, we have no strict sense of truth anymore. No dogma in that regard, if you want to look at it. We have no way to operate freely, in a sense. You speak, but then you catch yourself. You say, oh, I may be wrong. I don't know. And if you don't add that little piece of extra information, then a lot of people are not going to look at you as a credible source of information because you don't have you're not your own accountant. And now today we value people being their own accountants. I think, and so does, I'm getting a lot of this from Alan Watts and wherever he got it from, I don't know. Or maybe he didn't get it from anywhere, I don't know. But he says it's like having an accountant is like one hand that is free to do a bunch of stuff in this world, create a bunch of stuff. We have one hand of society. Everyone's one hand. And on the other hand, this hand is doing a bunch of useful things, but the other hand is not. The other hand is simply guiding the other hand while it does those useful things. Kind of like the way a father guides a daughter or son, whatever, on a bicycle to teach them how to ride the bike. As if that's what teaches them how to ride the bike, but it doesn't actually teach them. The teaching happens in the moment, miraculously, as also Alan Watts talks about. But my point is here that this guidance is good in moderation, but if you use your other hand to guide the other hand, as you know, you'll lose the work that could be being done, or the discovery, whatever you want to call it, by the other hand. It's not a good outcome. Over liability protection. I'm not liable. I didn't do that. It's not my job. That sort of mentality. Whereas if we're taking the blame right now, feeling responsible. I know those are crappy words, right? Because we don't want to do that because we all heard this and we're like, that's a destruction of the self. That's what it feels like to me, and maybe to a lot of other people. It's like, be accountable, Iberg. Be responsible, man. It feels like a hit, not to my ego, I don't think, but just to my being. To being. It's a hit. It's actually a hit to the being, to the process of being. Again, Alan Watts talks about how we could verbify everything because there is no cat. When we apply these terms to space, it's actually a catting. I'm a humaning. I'm a being. Or I'm not even a being. I'm being. That's it. I'm not even here. Being is here. Is hearing. Being is hearing. Okay, anyway. My point here is to say that what is my point? I always go to my point. I guess I don't have a point. No, I do. It's to be comfortable in your own truth. It's those people who hold the line. You know, I'm talking against the crushers because the people who hold the line are actually crushing the other side. There is a way to do it without crushing. I'm using that term, but it's not actually crushing. I'm not describing it as crushing. But I'm saying people who will hold their truth no matter what. It's a principle. And I argue that without these people, just like men without women, that's a binary statement, I know. It's not, we could go and spectrumize the whole men and women thing. But if we have those at the opposite ends, if they didn't exist, one didn't exist without the other. Rather, if one exists and the other does not, it's not a very good outcome or affirmative of life outcome for humanity. I don't think anyone would want just men or just women on Earth. In the sense that maybe there are people, again, I respect those people. They'll be like, yeah, if it was all women, perfect. Let's kill all the men, or not kill, but if we could get to that point without having to do harm and without having to have people's other existences exist, meaning our different opinions all here, it would be an ideal society in some people's minds. I don't know. It might. But my point is, for both the people, for all the views, the ones who say A is true, A is not true, and as well as the people. So there's people who say A is true, there's people who say A is not true, and there's people who say A is true and not true. We need to give them all space, because if we didn't, I think I have a belief that we would be maybe destroying the pond that the koi fish are swimming in Avatar: The Last Airbender. We'd be polluting it. Think about the koi fish. One of them represents A is true in Avatar: The Last Airbender. The other one represents A is not true, and they're following each other. They're trying to get to each other's tail, right? Trying to get back to the start, in a sense. Okay. And so in this dance, where is it happening? It's in the pond, which looks at them as both are true, because both exist. They wouldn't exist, the koi fish wouldn't be there had they not been true, right? And the pond holds them. So there's all three right there. And they're in perfect harmony. They're perfectly being. The pond is swirling. The pond is, is beautiful. So in my eyes, if you take one element out, you're screwing up the whole thing. And my life has always been coming to this realization, actually. I've been practicing the pond, being the pond, since I was 16 in a relationship. And I viewed it as very destructive to be the pond. And I think it is destructive. But rather than the koi, as opposed to being a koi with an opinion that you can go off of, you can use logic to develop yourself. But on the other side, there's the other koi fish always chasing you. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're building, there's always this kind of a tsunami. So it's kind of like living in a tsunami-prone area. You build a city, and the tsunami comes sometimes and destroys it. And that is the going and coming of life. There is nothing wrong happening. Yes, it seems calamitous in the moment, no matter how. I'm saying if death happens, if massacre, murder, just utter fucking You know, that's happening in our bodies at the level. The bacteria are at war constantly. They're going to arms. They don't have peace in the body. And yet we put companies, not only people, but show a face of stoicism. Again, that's a philosophy. I'm not trying to get above it. I'm saying good. Yes, do that. We need that. We also need that. We need that. We need it. But dogma says we need this. We need all, rather, in my eyes. So, search algorithm. Searching for truth. Without the koi fish, without the pond, the algorithm breaks. So when you're trying to search, a house statement, right? How do I replace the oil in my car? Imagine you had to look up the videos that tell you exactly how to do it, and you had to look up the videos that tell you how not to do it. I actually know this. Both are actually valuable sources of information. But notice how one, if you're acting as the pond, which is kind of like, in a sense, I could draw a parallel to being a company. A company that specializes in oil changes needs to know how to do it and how not to do it. Both are valuable to them. But to the self, just a single person, there is no need. There is no need to know how not to do it. The mistake that happens, that could be avoided if you learned how not to do it. The mistake that will happen if you learned how not to do it, if you didn't learn how not to do it, is a happening, is a tsunami, a type of a small little wave instead of a big tsunami. But it is, I would say, necessary. Actually, I would say, if you accept that uncertainty that could happen in your situation, meaning the video or whatever you watch doesn't line up with the reality that you actually experience while changing the oil, and because of that misalignment, you go to change the oil and you make a mistake. I don't know, you fucking over tighten the screw and you break your oil container holder thing. I don't know what to call it, but you see what I mean? And so then they'll be like, hey, you had to use a torque wrench, man. That video you watched didn't show you using a torque wrench. Okay, the overall point of this, though, is to say that it was your time to get into cars. That mistake had to happen. It was your time to start learning about cars. You could say it's destiny, or rather you could say it was a you don't have to give it a reason. It could be your a message to you from God. It could be whatever you're trying to explain it. Don't try to explain it. That's a big area. That is not Zen at all. You know, you see a problem, you just handle it. Like you see an extremely destitute person on the street. My brother saw children eating out of a trash in Turkey, like 4 years old, in the rain. Pretty gnarly situation, right? What are you gonna do about that? You're gonna watch it? Just kidding. I'm not telling you to go do something. You can do anything. Some people are gonna watch it, and that's totally okay. Again, without the watchers, we wouldn't have the ones who are the behaviorists, and both are necessary for this river to flow. Some people will be like, yeah, let's go help that child. Let's give them some money, at least, and tell them, hey, give this to people, but only how much they ask for, not all of it, for food. And they probably already know that at that age if they're digging out the trash. So either one is okay, is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to be the pond with this conversation, but at the same time, I'm telling you a message, no? So I'm stating a statement. There's an overall arching statement being said here. I know it seems like I'm going in circles. And it seems like I'm selling you to be the pond. I'm not. I'm trying to be the pond for you so you can have your own opinion, because it's much easier to live that way. It's much easier to make mistakes, to not have to go down the negative of the search tree when you're learning how to do something, to rather just go do what the people say to do. And even if that's like 60% good enough to actually get the job done, where mistakes are going to be made because of the other 40% that just doesn't pertain to reality, because reality is shifty. Make the mistake, break the fucking oil pan or whatever. I don't know if that's an oil pan. I actually don't know that much about cars, but maybe you could call it a pan, maybe, Anyway. But I'm saying I'm a proponent for it all, is what I'm trying to say. And that is a statement nonetheless. There are people who won't agree with this. Okay? This mindset. They'll find some way to disagree with it. Even though I respect their disagreement. I say I don't respect it. I allow for it. I want it. Come at me, bro. Kind of like that type of thing. No, not come at me. Come at yourself. Because that's what's going on. Why are you coming at yourself? You're trying to get away, as Alan Watts says, from who you are to be who you ought to be in the moment. You want to develop this skill. You want to get good at something. You want to do this. And that's perfectly normal. That's actually a sane behavior. That's very human. It's very contradictory, right? In a sense, like you're trying to be better at something. That's not contradictory, but at the same time, you're not happy maybe with where you are. You might be happy. I'm not saying this is just for the people who think they're not happy, right? So what I'm getting at is he says that's perfect harmony. Alan Watts says that we're trying to we're this person thinking and wanting to be another person. All of that is happening at once. Right? We're both a person completely discontent with where we're at, wanting to claw our way to somewhere we ought to be at. Right? And I think that's what fuels in certain ideas, people, that fuels the disagreement, the discordancy. But it's not a bad thing. No matter how disgusting, how gnarly the language being used is. Even violence. I know that's a whole other level. But violence is an interesting one, Maybe it's not, I have reservations about talking about it because I don't want to empower violent people. I don't. I actually do because I think it could balance society out. I really do. Like those violent people being empowered will tend towards guns. Maybe they already know this. I don't know. I haven't really went into this. And when they do, they'll be out in the open. It'll be very easy to see them. And when you see them, you know what to do. It doesn't become a mystical thing like whether this person is violent. No, you see it clear as day, usually. And when you see it, you do something about it, obviously. Just like a tsunami that comes and wrecks your home, these violent people are going to come and wreck you. So you have guns. And then you attain balance because how did you get rid of the violence is the real question in my eyes. Did you make violent people shameful? Did you make them feel like they're invalid? Their existence is not is valid? Is that how you got rid of it? That's a poor way of doing it, can't you see? It's force. It's dogma. It's saying I know violence is bad. And I also agree violence is terrible. Like killing a person is a terrible thing. So why I say this is on a higher I'm trying to get to a higher point above it. That's what I'm trying to do because I dig it. Which is to say, if we didn't force and say this has to be this fucking way, you know what I mean? If we didn't do that, if we didn't shove everyone down, break them down at a young age, violence wouldn't even come up. It's not even in our nature. Most violent people, it's not even in their nature as kids. It's not. It's actually an interesting consequence. Just like lust. Or you might think lust is natural. Again, I'm not saying it's not natural. I think that all of it's natural. But would it have happened? Would it have developed without your environmental cues growing up? Does it really happen? And it does happen now. You could blame it on the parents, say it's trauma, but there's empowerment qualities to trauma. If you look deeply into the studies about it, you know, trauma's not bad, something to do away with fully. It's something to embrace, actually, I think, to a large degree, in my eyes. No matter what people tell you. They'll tell you it's hard to draw boundaries with those people. They'll really fucking believe it. You know, there's no change in their mind. There is no change in their mind. Just like there's no change in mine. And it's not a sad thing that there's no change in their mind. It's just, that's the separation between you and that person. That's it. You can't, you're not going to bridge the gap. Go do something else. Go, you know, do whatever you want. You don't have to engage now in like that topic only. There's a bunch of other topics. You could go into machining. I don't know, right? But, you know, I've had a falling out with society. I'll be truthful. They said I was, my psychologist and psychiatrist told me I'm psychotic. Okay? I like to communicate this because it gives you the full picture. You know, no rawness, as society calls it, even though I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I was going to say something derogatory, but I'm not going to say it because I don't like saying derogatory things. But yeah, being thrown around, like I was on a path of just being A is true. Not A is not true. Like everything was falling in line and people are, you know, you can live a long way like that. You just move down the ladder, man. Become a billionaire. Get applauded by everyone around you. Get the entire world to be on your like handlebars. That song, I could guide a missile by satellite, like that guy. You could do it, and you would spend very little energy in the "is what I'm doing okay" philosophy, and I would commend you that you never. I would say I wish I went that way. That's a very nice path to go down. You know, very empowering. And not only very empowering, but very, I feel, less soul crushing. Very freeing. That's what I believe we need to be at. You know, I don't think Zen masters ought to exist. I don't think I should be making a video like this, actually. This is too thinking based, too much thoughts, right? too much analysis. This is not the path, I don't feel, for the modern man. You know, when our kids are born, where they should go. This is not it. All right, this is my perceptions of what I've experienced. Meaning, I've said, okay, I've given credence and logic, and I've given the opposite of it credence. And this is where we're at. Insanity. So it's not a good place. It's not where we're not meant to be the pond, I don't think. We're human. We're just in these bodies. You know? We're meant to recreate in all the forms. That's one way of saying, reproduce. A lot of people are in that sphere. This type of thinking may give birth to somewhere in between reproduction and the pond, whatever that might look like. Right? Something in between those two extremes. Between A is true and A and B are true. Or rather, A and not A is true. So, in this case, I think that I got my point across. It's easier to go down the search tree when you're looking for 01101. Go down the left. Don't go down the right. Maybe a little, like go look at the first comment of a video that shows you how to change your oil. Maybe they'll say something, but that's it. Don't go any further. Just to bridge that last maybe 20% of error possibility, you'll add one layer of, certainty to your search that you think, because I've learned some great things doing that personally, like just going in the comments and be like, oh, don't do that, man. You'll do this if you do that. That's what I'm talking about, So don't watch your other hand. Don't, if you're searching for 01101, take advantage of the way data has been structured. And you don't even have to think about that. You just go online or whatever, and you take the least resistance path to getting that information. That's it. You could, making, like, okay, I was learning HVAC. I could have looked at, I could have just went to school for it. I went to school for CS. I got a bad taste in my mouth. I got a bad taste in my mouth as a little kid from school. I think most of us did. So I just say, fuck that, man. Like, that's not for me. So that's why I didn't. Now I look for ways to do it for free. Because again, if you don't have education, then you're looking at free resources, which a lot of resources are free, thankfully now. So you can learn a whole lot doing it that way. But there's also the education through experience, which is the best one, I think. Because it's not thought-based. It's doing, it's happening based. You have a problem, get it done. How are you going to do it, right? Like, think something, be creative, think on your feet, whatever you got to do, And that's what modern education tries to recreate, is the experience. Not very well, but, because there's not, we all know there's not like a need for this. Whereas this guy without AC, his house is 90 degrees. He's sleeping in that weather. There's a pretty good need for it. So I feel like I've given off the appearance that I know everything, maybe in this video, but I'm not trying to give that. I'm actually, like I said, I diagnosed psychotic. So take what you see with a grain of salt. But I am trying to give a way out to this dilemma that I see. Like, you believe one way, And everything in life is nuanced. It can't be broken into clean bits, all separate from each other of information, you know? It's all blending into each other, which creates the nuance. No matter how dark, difficult the topic is. And I'm not saying, maybe to some people I am saying this, I'm saying give credence to the other side of people, you know? They would rather wash their cars that way, you would rather wash yours this way. Maybe by giving some level of, never thought about it like that type thinking, you'll gain something out of it that you wouldn't have otherwise. So that's what I'm saying. And then, but then there's others where it's like, I don't think I want to allow this dude to go kill children. Okay? I don't think that's smart, right? And I would agree with you. It ain't smart at all. Because again, that's a big one, right? So those people, I would say, hold the line, man. Hold the line. Don't give credence to the other side. But again, it depends. So verbally, you may be giving like allowance, but internally, that dude is a human. He's experiencing all the fucking things, or he might be autistic and he's experiencing nothing and he's just a mass murdering. We don't know. Spirit, right? We don't know. And I don't speak on autistic people derogatory. I'm saying a form of autism, specific one, could be depicted in that way, like, or manifest in that way. I'm not saying all autistic people are terrible, no. Again, I hope that's not misinterpreted. So that's kind of where I'm getting at here, is like is feel it out. That's all I'm trying to say. There's no rule here to make. Just feel it out. Every circumstance can be different. Let it treat it as that circumstance would require. Take care.